Hiya, it's Gaz from Moth Creaturae with another video update on this motorcycle helmet build that we're doing to tie in with our first motorcycle build, the City Sled. I've just been doing a bit drilling there. This is take 2 of the video I've just been doing. I got like kind of 10 minutes through it and my neighbour popped out to say hi and we're having a bit chit chat, and I thought, you know, this is taken away from what I'm supposed to be doing, as lovely as it was. So getting back onto what we're doing, this video like that I was supposed to be putting up today was supposed to be me painting the helmet, like doing the primer and stuff, but it got us thinking, if I went ahead and painted before I like permanently attach these press studs and what have you, when I get the straps back from my mate Steve from Icarus Leather, if there's any play like in the visor once them in place, I've got to strip the paint off to to tackle the issue, what's causing it. Maybe there's a bit of material missing or something. So I figured, you know what it is, rather than doing that painting, I'll wait until I've got these straps back and then I'll fit them. I'll tell you what, I've had them back and I am absolutely stoked. They are amazing. Now Steve of Icarus Leather, right, he makes really super high quality, high-end leather goods. You're talking your fine gentleman's sort of kit, you know, like your card holders, your wallets, your diary covers, this, that and the other. And when I say high-end, my god. So first and foremost, he deserves this. That's Steve's identity, Icarus Leather, right? And it was super important for me to have that on my sort of product, because I'm proud that he's done this work for us. I'm stoked, to be honest with you. So when people ask who did it, I want people to know who did it. Right, I'm going to show you a quick sort of scan over what this strap actually is, right? The work is just amazing, man. And then the edging, right? He knew what I wanted. I wanted something that was going to be outside, so it's going to get buffeted from the wind and stuff like that. There's no revealed edges, right? It's all smoothed. However he does it, I've got no idea, but it's honestly, it's amazing. And on the outside edge, obviously there's Moth Creaturae's image, right, embossed on. Spectacular. So just to do a recap, the plan is this helmet will be on my nut, right? Press studs there, open face, right? Not open face, it will have a jaw piece, right? But it'll have an open aperture there. Now, instead of going down the traditional goggle route, and instead of having a flip-up visor, I wanted to have a visor that I could remove. Now, there's a few trails of thought. There's a visor with a sort of goggle strap going around the back. Great, that would work. But if you remember when we talked about the helmet image, it's going to be all black with my skeletal Moth Creaturae image on the back. So I didn't want anything to cover that, because it's kind of taken away from what it is. So it needs to be visible. So how else we're going to keep that in place? And I thought of this way. So press stud either side of the visor, right, and a press stud on the helmet, and that'll keep that in place, right, like that, and it will look good. It will. Now I just need to make sure I can do his work justice by doing this quality of work on the rest of the project, the helmet. Right, originally we were going to go with 4 of these, which was 2 for the daytime visor and 2 for the nighttime visor. But then thinking about it, the purpose of going down the visor route as opposed to goggles, if you're out on a ride, you've got your daytime goggle, your highlight goggle, so like your smoked goggle or something on there, or visor, and then you go into low light conditions, like you're getting towards the evening, you want to swap that out for your clear visor. Now if you ain't got that ability, you're going to have a second set of goggles, which is on your person. And if you're going out dressed like I am, I'll just show you as well, sometimes you have to do things to keep you like sort of back in that sort of frame of mind. I've got my motorcycle jersey on today. This is my Moth Creaturae Motorcycle Jersey, which I'll be wearing with my motorbike. And if you see the back, like obviously you've got Moth Creaturae on the front, you'll see the back. You see my new image, which is the old play on See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Speak No Evil, the 3 wise monkeys of you know, Asian origin. Now I've actually had this protected. It takes a long time to go through copyright, and normally takes about between 3 months pretty much, because it's got to be like sort of offered up for anyone to contest it for a 2-month period. But this actually took several months. I come up with it not last year, the back of the year before, but I was struggling how to do the Speak No Evil any justice, because at the time we weren't wearing masks and it just didn't make sense to put a mask on there. But now, as masks are part of our everyday, or last year they were, it kind of made sense to go with something like that. So it's a protected image now anyway. I'm stoked about it. Right, enough about that. So when I went and got these today off Steve, right, I'm amazed by them. Honestly, they're beautiful. And I told him that one of the things that I'd done for him last time I was up there visiting him, one of the things I did was me as a thank you to him, I'd attempted to do one of these and use my little brass stamp to emboss a Moth Creaturae image, and I attempted to make him a keyring. And it was a cool idea, you know. It was an offcut of brown leather. One side was all stitched orange, the other side was all stitched green. It was folded together, and you know, it was nice. But I will not let that see the light of day, because I tell you what, Timmy off South Park could have done a better attempt. And this is what's an important lesson, you know. It's great to do things yourself, and it's great to try and be that one-man band, but sometimes you have to accept that some people are just much better at some things than yourself. And that's what I did with Steve. Steve is amazing at what he does, so that's why I got him to do this leatherware. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what I do with the helmet, how good that quality finish is. If it detracts because I've done a really poor job at the straps, well, it's just a sack in it. I went up there the day, and he's only made us that keyring, any right? Icarus on one side, Moth Creaturae on the other side. So obviously that's me keyring that's going on the keys for me Triumph, you know, when it's on the road. Right, back to what we're doing today. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the press studs on. And the press studs I'll be putting on these straps will be the outer sort of stud, which has like it's a bit nippy out here, so my hands are like freezing, so I can't hold things properly. But it's got like a rivet comes through the centre, which goes through the leather and then comes through the other side and goes through this hole, which is the female side of the press stud. So on the helmet and on the visor, you'll have the male side of the press studs, and on this you'll have two females. So clip, clip, keep it in place, you know. Now I've just had to, like I say, this is the second video. The first video, I also had put the press stud in place. You can see how that side doesn't have a sort of impression going around. That side does, of the press stud, which that'll be covered up again when I put the new press stud in place. But when I hammered it down, the rivet, it held great, but I did it on the table. So what happens was the rounded cap got a flat edge on it, and I thought it's all well and good if that's on each of the studs, which it will, but it won't be like that on the visor studs or the rest of the studs on the helmet. So I figured, you idiot, you forgot you had that little tool. Now that's a little dish that keeps the shape, so we'll use this little tool. So I'm just going to angle you so you can see what's going on. So we'll put that tool there. We'll put a little thing, like a little stud, through the leather that we're going to rivet. Put that on there, so it's sitting central. Get with female edge, put that over it. And there's not much room there. There's not much. We're gonna have to like sort of hoist some pressure on there to like sort of smash it down. And you can do it a controlled way, I suppose. I suppose you could use a vice, which is probably the best way to do. But getting it in the vice jaws would be fiddly because it's so small. So I'm opting for this. I'm going to use a ball hammer. I'm just going to give it a few taps and like peen this rivet over. Beautiful. Look at that. That's in place. There's still a bit of movement there with the stud, so I'm going to give it a few more hits just to make sure that we've got a good like sort of edge folded over. Brilliant. That's solid there. Right, so I'm confident that that's enough of a hold over the edge, you know. So we'll do the other side now. And you'll see, without it being flattened down, there's not much there. So when we hammer it down, we'll have to really hammer it quite hard, you know, to get the leather squashed down in that area. So we'll put this on, put it back in the little dish, put a little tool on. Brilliant, look at that. Not a technical job, not doing brain surgery, none of it's rocket science, you know, but it's the first time I've done it, so chuff with that. Do the second one now. Just making sure, put the studs on the right side. There we go, so it's on the outside. Put the female edge over it. Put that in the little dish. Put a little tool on. then we've got one more to do. So we'll get this one on that side. There we go, like that. Brilliant, look at that. Right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go and get the visor. We'll put the other side of the studs on the visor, and then we'll put it on, we'll clip it on so you can see what it looks like. So give us 2 minutes. Put this drill away, hopefully don't need that again. Oh, Wes, just doing a video here for YouTube. Right, so we've got the helmet. So we'll take this off, take that off. That's been on and off more times than it ever will when it's actually finished this project. It'll just stay on then. Right, so you can see where I've got the template on there. So we'll take that off. Oh, my hands are numb. We'll take off that side. So originally, if you remember, the plan was like the strap would be permanently attached to that, you know, permanently, you know, and that would be all right. I think that would be cool enough, but it's extra bulk in it, so I figured, and it's also putting a bit of pressure on that joint. If that's permanently attached, and this is quite like sort of, it's double back like hide, it's putting a bit of pressure on there. So if you store it away and that's bending and stuff, it's putting pressure on that sort of weak area where you've got the stud. So I figured what would be best is we just go with 2 straps. We don't need 4, like 2 for each visor. We'll go with 2 that are interchangeable for both visors. So now this is the bit where we've got to do a bit of hammering on this like plexiglass, you know, and hopefully not ruin what we've done. And the plan with this one is we'll be going for the female stud on the outside of that. Like that, like so. And then one of these flat washer type things, right? You see that? And it's like a load spreader. And that goes on the reverse side of it. Just make sure it's clear. I don't want to trap muck in there. So put that on the other side of it, like that, right? And we do the same as what we did before. This time, put it in the little dish. This is the difficult bit in it because I'm trying to hold the visor here now. Let's get some of this. Let's use that. Let's put that under there just to keep it up. Right, so let's see if we can get this right without completely smashing me work. You can't even see what I'm doing, can you? You're just looking at me gobbing off. Right. It's going to take some hammering this, like. I suppose that could go on the flat there. It doesn't need to be on the little dish. So we'll put that there. Right, it's starting to bend over, but we've got quite a bit of work to go on this side, like. Quite a bit of work. It's getting there. It's going to be close, this, because we needed to have enough of it. We needed to the metal to bend over this like back washer enough so it keeps it there. If it just goes over a little bit, it's going to give like quite a well, a really weak and unreliable connection. Could come off at any time. We'll have to get see, will that work? That may work, you know. The bloody connections come off, right? It hasn't bent over enough because of the thickness of the visor, but it has preened over the back of the visor itself. I wonder if that'll work. Probably will, you know. It's a hard enough like object. It's just, I suppose the only thing is it's not going to spread the load when you're on and off with a fastener all the time. Well, I'm happy with that. That's decent, that. If it doesn't work, right, worst case scenario, and these things are too big, the hole in the centre, I'll have to get one of these made, right, with a smaller sort of hole for the rivet to fill, you know. So we'll put the other side on. Fortunately, they're a real snug fit getting them in anyway. So before it preens over, it's already a tight fit getting in there, you know. This is where you need a third hand, isn't it? Cool, that's got in place. Brilliant, happy with that. Right, so that's my visor, and that's, I think, the way to go, right? So the black visor will be exactly the same, and it means when you're out riding, that is going to be so much easier to store than a set of goggles, obviously, or than something that's got these fixed on the side. So that will literally, you know, you can get these pouches, you can get jackets that have got like a visor sleeve in them, you know, but even failing that, that'll gan up. You got a t-shirt on, took your t-shirt in, put that round there, you're cool, man. Obviously if you come off, you might end up wearing this inside your body, but it's one of them things, isn't it? You might end up wearing a lamppost in your face and all. Right, so let's go and have a look at what this is like then. So clip that in place. And what I like about this is the fact that they are articulated. So it means when the visor's on, it'll actually pull it into the right position. This is the moment of truth. Let's hope it works there. Let's hope Gaz's wacky ideas has paid off. Otherwise we're back to the drawing board and you'll be laughing. Probably unsubscribe from your channel. Oh, you know what we need to do? I need to put a couple of press stud mounts in here. So bear with us, I'll just go and get a couple of little studs. Just thinking then, it's like all this is like sort of brand new to me, you know. It's all, I haven't done this before, so I'm learning as I'm going with all this stuff. But one thing I've just considered there, I am going to have to get some of them little washers made, because I can't use these inside washers on this evidently when there's not that much material to preen over or peen over, because they'll not hold on my helmet. Right, so we've got the studs in place there. Let's see if this fits there. So when I measured the distance between the studs of the visor centre and the centre of the hole for the visor and the centre of the hole for the helmet, it's actually 11.5 centimetres, right? 115 mil. And what I said to Steve was, I says, make sure you drill the holes, because I actually thought there'd be a lot of give in leather. I says, make sure you drill the holes like 11.2 or 11.3, I can't remember what it is, and that'll allow for a bit of stretch. And also the play in the studs, you know, like when they rattle. I've actually had him drill it, like the holes for the centres of them, to, not his doing, it's my doing, my shit measurements. There we go. So it is the tight fit that I wanted. It's just super bloody tight. And I'll be changing them on a super cold day. So there we go. Put the visor back in place, you can see how it works. But that is what we want. We don't want any gap. We don't want any sort of loose sort of gaps around the visor, because wind will be getting in, it'll be rattling, it'll be bloody awful. Look at that. I'm absolutely stoked with that. So when that's all gloss black, got shiny titanium pieces back on. Obviously we've got our new chrome strip around there, and we're not putting an edge on this because we want that chrome to show through the clear visor. We've got a nice big white skeletal image on the back. I think this is going to look amazing. I'm absolutely buzzing with that. Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think Steve's done an absolutely fantastic job. So next time I will be painting this helmet, right? So the next video, I look forward to me stripping everything off again, masking up those sort of gauze bits. So I've took all the sort of titanium outer parts off, but I can't take them inner gauzes out. So we're masking up them, taking everything else off, giving it a good sort of going over with the sort of roughing the key in the surface. Then I'll be giving it a good primer. I bought some primers the other week and paints and stuff, and then the lacquer I went with was a sort of a petrol resistant lacquer. I don't want to be filling or putting petrol on my helmet, but it needs to be something that's really robust. I don't want to be picking up silly scratches and scuffs here and there. So anyway, that was enough for today. Thank you for bearing with us. It was nice getting back on the YouTube, you know, getting on the tube, because I think I've left a bit of a delay between recent videos. It's not been like as regular or as frequent as it had been. Quick update on the bike. Obviously we've got with stem, we've got with rear spindle, we've got with spacers, got all that on. So we mocked it up and we're going to actually align the rear sprocket. I've actually the chain itself for the original Triumph, without changing the front sprocket, the drive sprocket, without changing that, because I don't want to alter the performance of it. But a key consideration was, originally that motorcycle came with a 17-inch wheel. And with the tyre on, the standard tyre, I think it had something like a rolling diameter, the rear wheel, of something like 19 inches. Now I've put an 18-inch wheel on the back with a trials bike style tyre, which is a bit more thicker, you know, a bit more give in it. Clearly it's a rigid tail, so I wanted it a bit more, you know, rubber underneath us. Now the rolling diameter of that's almost 22, so it's a lot bigger. Now what that'll do is that'll affect the gearing. So if I went on the rear sprocket, it originally had a 43 tooth cog. Now if I went for 43 again, that's effectively, because of the outer roller diameter, it's changing me gearing, because it's like it's got a smaller cog on the back. Now if you think your road bike, when you go down to a smaller cog, it's harder to get going, but you'll end up going faster on the sort of, you know, the top. Now the opposite said, when you've got a big, you know, so a big cog, you'll end up going quicker off the mark, but you're not going to keep that pace for long as you wear yourself out. Now, so it's important to get this calculation right. And what I ended up going with was, I went with a company called Talon. Everyone knows Talon. It's super hard to get blank sprockets at the moment because of, well, lockdown and sort of logistics around the globe. And I was going to go with other companies, some fantastic companies out there doing like these blank sprockets. But I went with Talon simply because everyone else was unavailable. No one had any stock. And the ones I got were super rare. Like, they were the only ones in the place. I think the only ones in the country. So I did my calculation, and it worked out I needed 47 teeth to keep the same performance what that bike came out with from the factory. Now clearly it's going to change because it's like 70-year-old or something, this motor. But what I figured was I'll go with as close as I can, and the closest one I could get was 46 teeth. So I got a 46 tooth, but I also got a 51 tooth, which is a bit bigger, which, as you remember what I've just said, that will affect me gearing a bit, which effectively will make it quicker off the mark. So you see your trials bikes and that, they've got quite big cogs, you know, for what they are, and it's because they need like that instant torque, that instant sort of oomph. Now this is a 350cc bike. It certainly ain't going to be a motorway like cruiser, you know what I mean? And the style that I'm building, it's going to be like, think of your classic bar hopper. Only nowadays we drink less, well, I drink less beers and I drink more coffees, so it's going to be a little posing sort of toy to tool around in on a nice day when I'm wearing my nice kit. And so I figured if it's a bit more sprightly in town, well, that's great. So with this in mind, the original teeth, or the original size sprockets and chain, was more akin to a cycle, you know, a pedal bike, really thin. In my Triumph, because of the date, 1958, back then technology weren't as good, so chains weren't as strong, so they had to be quite robust. So the size of these sprockets and chains is 530. Now, for those of you that know about motorcycles, a 530 is a hefty bit of kit. That's like what your sort of 1000cc super bikes are using nowadays, because of the amount of power they've got. My bike's got about, I think it's 18 horsepower or something, but it's probably pushing out about 10. There's certainly no need for anything that hefty, but because I'm not changing the front sprocket, that's what I have to accept, that it's going to be hefty on the back and hefty chain. Now, the alignment, because we've got the rear stem on, the rear spindle on in the spacers, when we got it aligned, the chain actually runs true 4mm inside where the current Trials bike sprocket is. So I've used the current Trials bike sprocket as a template to make a sprocket carrier. So effectively, rather than having an offset sprocket, so it'll go kind of up and then slope out a little bit, which would be cool. But it means if this ever needs changing, it's going to be hard, because you'll have to go back to someone else with this set of plans to get that done. So I wanted it to be a bit more user-friendly. To that end, I've designed a sprocket carrier, which will go on, which means then you only have to buy a sprocket, you know, and you don't really need a pattern for this. You just give them the dimension of what the inner circle will be for them to mill out, and then you put the correct holes in to drill, like screw it to this carrier. And so with this in mind, normally people go down the route of to lighten things like this, because I mean, we're talking like it's a billet piece of aluminium, and as much as aluminium's not heavy, you don't want to be carting around excess weight, especially on a little like underpowered bike like this. So people normally drill big circles, well, mill big circles in the sprocket to reduce weight, and so long as it doesn't affect the integrity of the component, it's good. And what I figured might be a cool trick, rather than drilling holes in, is try and get Moth Creaturae completely CNC'd solid all the way through, so you can see through the carrier. And that's kind of where we're at the moment. It'll either happen in the carrier, or we'll reduce the size of the carrier, and the sprocket will have the Moth Creaturae kind of CNC'd in, so you can see through it. Like I mentioned with the helmet about like keep it simple, stupid, the bike's going to be itself. It's going to have a lot of fabrication into it that's hidden. You look at it and you'll think, well, it's just a plain bike. You've really got to look twice, and then you'll realize, oh my god, how's he done that? And with my identity, I didn't want to put like Moth Creaturae all over it, you know, like a billboard. So I wanted to put it in subtle places, and this is one of them places where I'm thinking of putting it. The next place is going to be the tank strap, and down the center of the tank strap, I'm thinking maybe he's put me three wise monkey type sort of image, you know, so that see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Anyway, just a quick heads up there. So the guy who's doing that for us, Francis, basically he's waiting for the sprockets getting to him. There was a delay in the post, but as soon as we've got an update on that, I'll let you know, and hopefully it will not be too long until we've got them. We can fit them to the bike, and we can carry on and actually start doing some videos on the bike, as opposed to just talking about what we're doing with the bike. Right, so inside 30 minutes today, which is cool. Thank you so much for bearing with us, and I suppose until next time, stay safe, take care, bye.